Well, you clicked on the video, so that's a great first step. The time you all have been waiting for is finally here. You've watched this channel for years as I've covered the original Knight Rider series. Thank you for being so patient, so we can now finally get to what you guys really want. Coverage of the mid-90s sequel, Team Knight Rider. I know what you're thinking. I'll just go ahead and say it now. You're welcome. All right. I know TKR is not everyone's cup of tea. I remember how excited I was way back in October of 1997 when it premiered. I actually watched the first episode in Florida when I was there for the very first Knight Rider convention, KnightCon 97. In fact, they even had one of the screen-used Beast trucks there, which was really cool. A very young me even won a TKR hat by becoming the KnightCon champion of the Knight Rider NES game. I think I peaked in that moment. Anyways, in putting together this commentary for this first TKR episode, I actually found myself enjoying it, but not in the way you might think. I hadn't seen any of the TKR episodes in 20 years, so it was neat to revisit this world and look at it with the eye of a Knight Rider historian. As such, I saw things when I was watching the pilot episode that I never noticed before. You know, like a certain Knight Rider veteran popping up in a couple blink and you'll miss it moments. So let's consider this commentary a test. I'll be watching the comments, the views, the overall engagement to see if I should continue on with commentaries for the rest of this season or series. With that said, here we go with our Team Knight Rider commentary on the very first episode, Fallen Nation. Before we dig in, as of the time of this recording, I've hit 90,000 subscribers on this channel, which is frankly mind-blowing for a channel based just on a 40-year-old TV show. Yeah, I know the official Knight Rider channel that just shows clips from the show has more than double the amount of subscribers, but they have it easy. I feel like I've earned every one of your subscribe button clicks. From the start of this 3 years ago, my goal has been to hit 100,000 subscribers. Don't worry, I'm not quitting at 100,000. But with your help, I think I can achieve that goal this year. My stats show me that 53% of my viewers are not subscribers. If you like what I'm doing here and you aren't already subscribed, I ask that you take just a moment and hit that subscribe button right below this video. It would mean the world to me. All right. Enough of my plea. Let's start our analysis of Fallen Nation.
Tonight, a world television event. The first adventure in an exciting new series.
Get to us as soon as you can.
Action with attitude.
Too sexy. Too sexy.
One man can make a difference, but sometimes one man isn't enough. And now, Team Knight Rider.
So see, you got some splaining to do.
Production V0501, Fallen Nation. This episode had the original working title of Blackout. This is the first episode to air. Originally aired the week of October 6th, 1997. Remember, the show was syndicated, so it could have aired at any point within that week, October 6th, 1997. It was rerun for the first time the week of December 22nd, 1997, and then rerun a second time the week of August 16th, 1998. It was written by series creators Rick Kopp and David A. Goodman, and directed by Spiro Razatos. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Synopsis reads as follows. Kyle sends the team to investigate the disappearance of a military general by a mysterious new group known only as Fallen Nation. Now, many, many, many years ago, in fact, just a few years after Team Knight Rider ended, we had the chance to speak with Rick Kopp and David Goodman about the show. And one of the questions we asked them questions about a lot of the episodes, which as we cover these episodes in our commentaries, will bring up the points that they brought up to us. But specifically on Fallen Nation, one of the questions we asked them is, why didn't this show start with like a big 2-hour event introducing the characters, a story that really felt like the beginning, the origins. And David Goodman said, since we were in syndication, we weren't sure what episode would air first. That's why Fallen Nation didn't show the characters' initial meeting. There would have been continuity problems if it aired later in the season. And an interesting note, he told us that the studio actually wanted Crow to air first as a way of bridging the gap between the original series and Team Knight Rider. But obviously that did not happen, and Crow comes a few episodes later. We also asked him if Knight Rider 2000 existed in this iteration, in this universe. And he said Universal Studios said they wanted the new series to be set in the present day, not in the future like Knight Rider 2000. We decided to base the entire series on the events in the original show. Viewers saw that Flag grew much bigger and more well-known over the last 10 years, and we felt that was the natural progression of things. So there's some behind-the-scenes information. And one other interesting point. So Brixton Carnes, who played Kyle Stewart in this series, had this to say about Fallen Nation. When the first episode aired in October, we were wrapping up the last episode in production. So they pretty much had the entire first season done before we even got to see the first episode. All right, so let's go ahead and dig in. All right, so one thing I want to mention, this screenshot you're looking at here is actually a grab from the opening intro, the last frames of the opening intro. Now, something interesting that you probably wouldn't know unless you saw the show in the original run in 1997 and 1998 like I did, and recorded all the episodes on VHS tapes like I did. The show had 2 opening intros. With different scenes on them, mainly because the combo vehicle that was Cat and Play-Doh, when they were merged together, changed partway through season 1. So they redid the opening credits. But in all of the subsequent airings of the show, even airings back in 97 and 98, so any of the reruns, once they introduced the new opening intro, which was like halfway through the first season, once they introduced that, any future reruns that had the original opening intro were replaced with the new intro. And, anytime you could watch the show, I think it might have been, probably not on Netflix, but any streaming services that had the show, I know there were a couple, always showed the second style intro, even on those early episodes. And even the latest Turbine Blu-ray Knight Rider box set release that includes Team Knight Rider only shows the later style intro. But originally there was, for the original airings of these episodes, there was a completely different opening intro. All right, moving on. So one of the very first scenes in the very first episode of Team Knight Rider actually has a face that's very familiar to all of us in the original Knight Rider show, and especially if you've watched my commentaries. This here on the left is Andy Gill, Jack Gill's brother. He appeared in Knight Rider. He did tons of stunts in the original Knight Rider, and here he is in Team Knight Rider right there. And we'll see him a couple other times in this episode. All right, so here's the episode title screen, and it starts out pretty neat where you see, and actually does feel like kind of like a first episode, where you see all of the cars in the desert with some pretty good music, and they're all going to rendezvous with Sky One, which we'll see here in a second. This, I do not believe, was filmed at El Mirage in California, where the original Knight Rider intro was filmed. It just doesn't look the same, or maybe it's from a different angle where the mountains are closer up than we see in the original series. You're going to find, by the way, there's going to be, I'm certainly not as well versed in Team Knight Rider as I am the original series. In fact, it's been 20 years since I've seen any of these episodes. So, all right, and here's our introduction to Sky One, the mobile headquarters for Team Knight Rider. No longer do we have a tractor trailer mobile unit. We now have a plane, which is fine. This is all CG. This was not an actual plane they had for the production. I don't even know if this is based on a real plane. Maybe you guys can tell me. All right, so then we see the TKR crew forming a straight line to go into Sky One. And one of the things that always bothered me was Domino, the red Mustang. They never had the top up ever, even when people were shooting at them. Just always had the side windows up, and here's a perfect example of when you'd really want the top up when you're getting coated in dust. But I guess it was all about looks. All right, so more bad mid-90s CG. That's okay. All right, so for those of you who have never seen this show, I'll do limited introductions, I guess. This is Dante. Dante is driven by Kyle Stewart, the head of Team Knight Rider, the team leader of Team Knight Rider. Dante is a 1997 Ford Expedition, and you'll see throughout this season, the series, minor changes they made to these cars as the season went along to kind of make them a little bit more customized, because really, for the most part, they're just stock vehicles that were dressed up with stuff. But here we can see where I believe this was the turn signal or a fog light, they replace it with these missiles right here. And we'll see a few other details like that. So a lot of the action takes place. This is the TKR garage, where each vehicle has their own stall for maintenance. All right, so this is Play-Doh, and driven by Trek Sanders, Kevin Trek Sanders. So each one of these cars has its own unique personalities. Dante is kind of a snubby know-it-all. Play-Doh here only speaks in riddles and pop culture references, which is kind of neat. In fact, there's a scene right at the beginning where he quotes Battlestar Galactica, which is kind of a nod to Glenn Larson, right, who created that. And then in the background here, we have Cat, driven by Erica West. We've got Domino, driven by Jenny Andrews. And in the far back, we have Beast, driven by Duke De Palma. So we'll get into more of those as we go along. This is the other reoccurring permanent set, the Sky One Command Center. And it's basically the place where all of the team comes together and talks and figures all of the world's problems out. And if you look above here, these lights, this is supposed to be a hologram projector, which we'll see in use here. The center of this table lights up, and you can project holograms in the middle. That's what all that is supposed to be. All right, Jenny Andrews, I believe she's ex-Marine, and then joins TKR. And as you'll see, she's the main connection to the original series. She turns out to be Michael Knight's daughter, which we'll get into here as we go along. Kyle Stewart, he's ex-CIA. They allude in this first episode to some kind of an accident that he was in, and that he hasn't recovered fully, but I'm trying to remember. I think later on in the season they dig into that more. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen this series, so we're going to kind of learn and figure it out as we go all together. All right, Duke De Palma, played by Dwayne Davis. He was actually, I remember him in a short scene in Beetlejuice. There's a scene where the two main characters are in the afterlife, and they're in like this office setting, and Duke plays a dead football player, or Dwayne Davis plays a dead football player. But other than that, I'm not sure what else he was in. All right, we have Erica West here, and played by Kathy Tragesser. I probably screwed that up. Interestingly enough, she would go on after the show ended, like a year later. She guest starred on Baywatch with Hasselhoff, which is kind of neat. But early script versions has her last name as Starr, Starr, as opposed to West, which is interesting because later on in the series, there's one of the antagonists, one of the bad guys in the episode is named Starr. So that might just be a coincidence. And here's Kevin Trek Sanders. And I believe he got, if I remember correctly from 20 years ago, he got the nickname Trek because he was conceived at a Star Trek convention, something like that. And he's this boy genius, graduated MIT at age 10, something like that. And he drives Play-Doh. All right, so here's the dashboard of Play-Doh. There's a bunch of buttons down here and 2 screens, and that's pretty much it. You don't really have voice modulators on these cars. You just kind of have their rotating profile here. Later on in the season, we'll see certain times when the cars are talking, their headlights blink, which is kind of cheesy. But they do make some efforts, like I said, as the season goes on to customize the cars a little bit more. But in this early episode, the first one filmed, things are kind of bare bones. Yeah, so this is on the screen in the Situation Room at Sky One, and we can glean maybe a little bit of information. But here, look, it says Erica Starr when it's actually Erica West. So this graphic was created before they changed that last name. But GPS location, satellite link, fuel comms, max RPM, max power. Just a little bit of useless information there. All right, so this is Beast. Beast is... his personality is arrogant towards his driver, Duke, but he's also in love with Jenny. So he treats Jenny like a princess and hates Duke, I guess. This is a 1997 Ford F-150. And you can even see, KITT had, didn't need seatbelts because they had passive laser restraint, didn't have a rear view mirror, didn't need all that stuff. Well, again, these cars are stock. You'll see the cars have seatbelts again. The cars can even be damaged in ways that KITT couldn't be damaged, as you'll see as we go along. So it's really kind of a step backwards in terms of the technology of these cars and of Flag. All right, and this is Beast's display inside his truck. And it pretty, again, bare bones, and all you see is the icon of the car twirling as he's talking. I believe you do see the color of the line art of the truck that's spinning. When the cars are talking, the line art changes and blinks colors as well. I don't remember if it did it in this first episode, but I know it does it later. All right, so we've got Duke with his high-tech 90s device. One thing you'll notice, which you may or may not be able to see here, but you'll definitely see it later on in the series, they put TKR stickers on like everything. So you can just barely see it under his finger. There's a TKR sticker right there. You'll see it on all kinds of random stuff. They were really good at branding. But yeah, that's our high-tech detector, handheld detector that he's using. Clearly a ancient cell phone at this point. Everyone does have a comm link, so that's a nice carryover from the original series, although they don't appear to really be customized that much. I'll show you how they are customized here in a minute, but otherwise they're just looks like they're each suited to, like each member of TKR was allowed to pick their design, I guess, because they're all a little bit different. All right, so we do see there's no scanners on any of these cars, unfortunately. When we talked to Rick Kopp and David Goodman, they said the plan was to introduce scanners in the second season, but that never happened. So we just are kind of stuck with the basics, but we do see that Beast does have a laser, so that's good. Yeah, here we go, microwave laser. Status, firing, well, that's good, 108 feet. Laser power 100%, laser temperature 3,910 degrees, probably Fahrenheit. All right, and then we see Beast break through the wall to save everyone, and they get out, and Duke is caught in an explosion. One thing I did want to mention, this series, it's no original Knight Rider, don't get me wrong. There are moments, there are glimpses of goodness in this series. There's good action, but it's really overshadowed by what is in my opinion really bad acting and really bad writing. And even just looking at their faces here in this scene, it looks like high school plays or something. They just don't look, it's just not convincing to me, I guess you could say. But here we go. Here's Duke. The place is exploding. He flies through the air. Beast backs up and catches him, as you can see. And a little continuity issue. They crack the windshield whenever he lands on it. And you can see the windshield is still cracked here, but then in the next scene it's not. It's okay. All right, so here is, I believe, Kyle's communicator. These all look like watches from Fossil back in the late 90s, early 2000s. But you can see the face can change and actually has a video display on it, which is an upgrade from the original series. All right, so here we have Jenny and Domino, and Domino's personality is like seductive. Like she's always hitting on men and things like that. So that's just the personality they gave her. And here's the Dash voice modulator, I guess you could say. This would be, and see, this is weird because this Domino is a 1997 Mustang convertible, Mustang GT, and this would actually be where the airbag is on a Mustang on the passenger side. So this whole setup over here is like not in front of the driver in any way. It's in front of the passenger, if you think about it. And there are some buttons here. Not sure if we ever really get to see what these buttons say. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we go through the series. All right, and there's Andy Gill once again, taking out the guards here at this nuclear site. Yeah, there's a better view. Looks like you got a suntan. All right, and then here's in Sky One Situation Room. Here's Dante. Doesn't really look like a Ford Expedition. That's okay. Driver Kyle Stewart. Satellite link active. GPS. Weaponry. I can't read that. Fuel comms. LPI. 4167 LPI. I don't know what any of that means. And you can see Domino has one of those too, although in this particular screen you really can't read it. I can see it says driver Jenny Andrews, but the rest of it is too hard to read. I'm sure we'll get a glimpse of this on a bigger screen in a future episode. Yeah, and this is another thing. Each car has this holographic projector, so instead of seeing his head on the screen, you can see it float in front of the screen. Not sure why that's necessary, but there you go. Holograms were big back in the 90s. All right, so during this scene, they're in the Situation Room. They're watching a live newscast. The voiceover that's doing this news broadcast is series creator and writer David Goodman. And here's what I was talking about earlier. Here's that hologram in the middle of that table in the Situation Room. So it lights up down here, and the lights come above, and then it creates this hologram in the middle. All right, so we have Cat and Plato, the two motorcycles, and then the two of them can come together and form this combo car. I forget if it actually had a name in the series in universe. We'll have to keep an ear out for that. But he's standing behind this combo car, which somehow grew in size too, because this is one motorcycle, this is another, and then it has all this new material in the middle, and it's taller than him now. So I'm not sure where that all came from. But the front of it opens like this and allows them to get in and drive it away. This was a completely custom vehicle. And by the way, speaking of all of these vehicles of Team Knight Rider, what happened to them? My guess, because actually I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say I don't know totally. There is one vehicle, one of the TKR vehicles that we do know the fate of. And I'm going to save it until later in the episode commentaries because it's a TKR vehicle that is not in this episode. So I'll leave it at that for now. But this one was completely customized. But I believe, we don't have any firm proof, but I think these vehicles were customized by George Barris, believe it or not. And that's purely speculation, but we found some evidence to say that it was George Barris who built or had a hand on these Team Knight Rider vehicles, at least. These cars were donated by the Ford Motor Company. My guess is at least the Mustang, the Expedition, and the F-150 were probably crushed when the show ended. That would just be a guess. Yeah, so here we go. There's the front of this combo car. So this is supposed to be the two motorcycles, and then all this material forms in the middle. These are all missiles in the center there. And you can see the back of it here. Interestingly, the license plates are gone in this scene. It should say Plato and Cat back here, but it does not. And the magical process where it splits, and now we're 2 motorcycles right there. Okay, so now we're inside. We're back in the Sky One garage on the mezzanine here. You can see Dante down here. For some reason, Dante does not have a license plate. That's all right. So one of the things I loved about the original show, there were so many things, but one of the things I really liked was whenever Michael and Kit were out on the road driving, they were actually out on the road driving. They're actually towing a Trans Am, and they were driving. The background was real. In this show, it's all fake. It's all green screen. So they're sitting on a soundstage while the background is just green screen and fake. And I never liked that. It always looks so fake, and it looks fake here. All right, so here's Jenny's comlink, and hers does have a modification. It has a red blinking light. So whenever it's transmitting, there's a red blinking light. But other than that, it looks like a pretty basic fossil-like watch. All right, so now the team, well, everyone except for Jenny, is in their TKR uniforms. For this episode and this episode only, they have those yellow stripes on the shoulders. Those stripes would go away after this episode. No explanation, but they would go away, and it would just be more of the blue fabric in that area. All right, and we see Domino has a laser as well, just coming randomly out of that opening in the bumper. Yeah, so this blurry scene, they just crashed through a gate. There's people shooting machine guns at them, and you've got Kat and Plato and Trek and Erica on the motorcycles just waiting to be hit with a machine gun. So, again, you just kind of have to suspend disbelief. You know, they should have formed the two into the combo car so they were at least protected. Whatever. But in this scene, we do have a nice callback to the original show. We've got Domino, and there's 2 intruders, 2 people from Fallen Nation that have commandeered the car. Jenny's sitting in the middle, and Domino activates the intruder control, and we've got a double ejection right there, which is kind of neat. There they go, flying away. And then you've got Beast here, randomly putting up this giant rocket and shooting it and blowing a door off or something like that. But we'll actually see this missile again from Beast later in the series, and it'll actually show how it opens up and comes out of the truck. All right, so at the end of the episode, you can see here, like I said, each car has its own station, and this one is Beast. It says Beast 1, BST1 there. All right, so then the episode ends, and we've got Jenny at night going into the Situation Room and trying to activate a file on Michael Knight, leading to a season-long mystery as to why she's looking up a file on Michael Knight. She doesn't have clearance, but we will find that out as we go along. There she goes. Nothing works. Can't access it. All right, so then we have the end credits. Nia Verdelos is probably the most famous, at least to me, on this list. She would go on to create and star in the Big Fat Greek Wedding movie series. So that she was the star of that and earned some fame there. These other ones, I'm sure they've done other interesting work. I don't know if it's just voiceover, if they actually did live acting, but maybe we'll dig into them as we go along through the episode commentaries. Yep, and look at that. Andy Gill. Andy never received on-screen credit in the original series, so I guess it's fitting he at least received something here. And you can see here, TKR vehicles supplied by Ford Motor Company as expected. All right, guys, so that's what we've got on our first episode commentary for Team Knight Rider. Let me know if you liked it. I know a lot of people out there do not like Team Knight Rider. I can understand why, but, I think we're going to dig up some interesting nuggets, and especially stuff that ties to the original series as we go through. So hopefully you'll join me as we go through Team Knight Rider. As always, thanks for watching. Next up is the magnificent TKR. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.
Coming this fall. From Universal Television, the studio that brought you the original Knight Rider franchise, comes Team Knight Rider, TKR.
How easy is it going to be to launch a nuclear missile?
You know, it's so easy, I'm surprised someone hasn't done it before.
Now in production.
Beg for mercy and action!
22 episodes of spirited action-adventure and high drama with plenty of attitude.
We save the world every week. We work as a team to solve problems.
It's Team Knight Rider, and it's got cars, it's got action, it's got humor, it's got drama.
It's going to be a good story as well as a lot of action-adventure.
5 exciting characters, 5 supercharged vehicles. TKR, an elite group working for FLAG, the Foundation for Law and Government.
Go!
Chasing down villains and obliterating global threats. The team behind the camera is the best in the business, including the writing team of Kopp and Goodman of Wings and Dream On fame.
1 out of every 3 episodes is almost a miniature James Bond movie.
And acclaimed stunt coordinator Dick Butler, whose credits include The Rock, Jaws, and Back to the Future.
They're gonna see cars flying, explosions everywhere. It's escapism. It's like anything goes, but nobody gets hurt. Come on, Duke!
Team Knight Rider. Meet America's newest action stars. Brixton Carnes as Kyle.
Kyle is the team leader of Team Knight Rider. He's got to use all of his leadership skills to keep this team together.
Christine Steele as Jenny.
I'm second in command, so I have all those powerful things about me.
Dwayne Davis as Duke.
Duke is a former cop from Chicago who, in investigating a crime family in Chicago, lost his job.
Kathy Tragesser as Erica.
I come up with these ideas that no one else would think of, and it saves the day.
And Nick Wexler as Trek.
I made a lot of money, and then I cashed out and started over. And I've done that a few times. That's how bad I am.
Team Knight Rider. Cars with attitude and minds of their own. Vehicles with personalities that rival their drivers.
The cars don't always do what they're told. They're not always cooperative.
There's a little more attitude, a little more edge, and they don't always get along with their driver.
It's time to let the beast out of his cage.
Beast.
I drive the Beast, a Ford F-150, and it's sweet. Everybody's going to want a Ford F-150 after the show.
Domino.
She is red, and she's hot, and she's a convertible.
Dante.
My car keeps me in line, and we have a rapport. It's a relationship there. My car solves all my problems.
Cat.
That's Kat. They've written the characters and their vehicles to complement each other, and she's kind of sassy back to me.
Plato.
And there's another motorcycle, and they come together and form one big 2-motorcycle deal.
Team Knight Rider. Unlike anything else on television.
Oh, I didn't expect you home so soon.
I don't know who you are, but I'm not buying it.
The humor.
Is there any discipline left at TKR?
Well, geez, we still keep a single-file line in the cafeteria. It was sort of like a kind of dysfunctional family.
We do have our differences. It has to be on a volunteer basis only.
Good. I can't go.
Why can't we get along like the guys on Mission Impossible?
I love that line.
The relationships.
Yes, there is a possible interest between Kyle and Jenny.
Could be. Don't know. Can't tell you.
Well, no, I guess I shouldn't give it away.
The action.
Everybody stand by. Okay, roll cameras. Effects go hot. Effects go hot.
It's going to be a big deal.
Everyone's just in it to make this a go.
We should be a huge hit by next year this time.
Team Knight Rider. From Universal Television.